Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the video series on the 1982 Orient Red 300 SD. Now, if you remember back in my inspection video, I mentioned I wanted to refinish the original wood. I wanted to send it off to Madeira Concepts. And also I pointed out there was an issue with the electric seat adjustment motor on the passenger seat. So today we're going to remove the wood from the car. I'll package that up and send it off. And then we want to remove the passenger seat to troubleshoot what is wrong with the seat motor. So let's get started. So guys, removing the wood trim from the 300 SD can be done without removing the dash. And you see it started to delaminate here and a little right here. And over on the glove box, there's a little delamination. So I want to send off this wood. But the first thing you need to do, here's the Mercedes gauge cluster removal tools. You just want to put these behind the gauge cluster. And we want to go ahead and pop this out. And it's very easy to remove the 300 SD gauge cluster because it is electric. It doesn't have mechanical connections. There we go. Like the 123 chassis, all the connections on the back, some of them are mechanical, like the oil pressure gauge and the speedometer, whereas on the SD, it's electric. So let me go ahead and get this guy out of here. There we go. Went ahead and popped it loose. And then I just need to unplug the electrical connections on the back. There we go. I just unplugged the ones on that side. Now we need to get the main power switch over here. There we go. And that's it, guys. Very easy to remove the gauge cluster. All right, now that this is out, I can get access to the little plastic nuts that are on the back of the screws holding this wood in. And we'll go ahead and get into that next. Check that out, guys. That's one of the nicest 300 SD gauge clusters you will ever see. All right, before I get started removing the trim, this is the tools you're going to need. We have a small flat blade screwdriver. Here's a couple of small Phillips screwdrivers. This is to remove the glove box liner. And this is the special tool you'll need. It's a very small ratcheting wrench. And we have 7 and 8 millimeter sockets that go on there to get to undo some of the plastic nuts behind the wood trim. Okay, what we're going to start with here is we're going to remove the headlight switch, and you just grab that firmly and you can pull it off. Sometimes you got to get some pliers. I'm going to grab some pliers and put a towel around it. Okay, here we go. I just have some channel locks here. All right, then what you do, you just wrap it. It's just pressed on there, but they're on there pretty snug. So we'll put a towel around it. That way we don't mar anything or damage anything. And then we can pull this guy off of here. All right, there we go. See, that just pulls right off of there. And now underneath here, here's a tool I forgot to show you. You need a 24 millimeter socket. Sometimes you can do this by hand. I'm going to go ahead, just pull out our little bulb right here. I'm going to go ahead and try it by hand. We might need to put our channel locks on there because there's a nut right behind there. There we go. And we'll just grip that. There we go. That's it. And then you can just spin that nut off of there because this is attached to the wood. Your headlight markings here, this little plastic panel, and that's going to come off with the wood. There you go. Looks like that. Now what we want to do is pry this vent out, and I'll show you how to do that. Right behind here, see that little, there you go, see that little tab back there? If you get a screwdriver in there, and we can pull that tab back. Let me move our vent out of the way. There we go. See So you can pull the tab back like that, and it will pull out of the dash. All right, let me put the camera down and show you guys that. There we go. That releases the vent. And we have another one right here on this side. Stick our little flat blade screwdriver in there, and you just push it back a little bit. There we go. And we can pry this side out. There we go. And this vent will come right out of here. And you see that little peg right there? That's what we were prying out of there. That peg and that peg are spring loaded. So we'll set that aside. Okay, now that the vent is out, we have a little plastic nut right there. And that's holding on a stud that holds the end of the wood piece on there. And that's where we get our little ratcheting wrench, put it in there and undo that. I might have lied, it might be a 8mm. There we go. We're just going to spin that plastic nut off of here. I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. That is just a simple plastic nut that goes on the stud. Okay, the next thing we want to do is go behind the dash, and there's a stud basically going through the wood here. It goes through the dash, and I think right here. Yep, there we go. And that's the same thing. Those are the same size. I think they're, I'll tell you in a second. Okay, those are 8mm. And the way I'm getting those off is with a little extension and my 8mm socket. All right, we're spinning that off there. And that's going to detach this wood piece from the dash here. Got it. All right, there's that one. And it might be 7 or 8mm. It seems that both work. Yeah, that one, it could be 7mm, but seems to work with an 8. And then there's another one right over here. You just got to feel around for it and do this blind. There it is. Okay, got it. All right, so we have our wood detached here and from the dash here. All right, I'm on the passenger side of the car, and if you come in here to your center vents, see if I can show you guys this, and you look right underneath here, there's a screw there, right there, and right there. Those are small Phillips head screws, and if you turn your vents in just a little bit, you can screw those out. So let's go ahead and do that. But these basically secure the wood to your center vent frame. It goes through the frame and into the bottom of the wood. And these are very small. There we go. See how small that is? Let me get the other two out. There's one. And we have one more right here. All right, we got those out. Now, this wood, see, is now detached from there. Okay, the next thing we need to do, which I've already actually done, this plastic piece right here. So here's your center vent frame, and on this plastic piece attached to it are 2 clips that go right in there and kind of clip onto the frame. Now you can reach behind there and you can feel them, and you can kind of pop them loose, which I've already done. See, now we have a gap there, and you can kind of see there's a tab there and a tab there. I already popped those loose. And now this wood is loose. Whoop, that one popped back in there. Let me go back behind here and push it again. There we go. There we go. This wood is now loose, and we can slowly work it off of here. There it goes. Got it. All right, now we move to the right and get this piece off the end. And there we go. That wood trim is now removed. And here we go. This is what we were doing. There's a stud on the back here and a stud on the back there. There's the stud for that side piece over here. And then those 2 little tabs around your ignition tumbler are right there and right there. And we have this wood off now. which we can send off to Madeira. All right, let's move to the next item. Okay, the next two pieces we want to take off are this piece. You can see we've got a little delamination that has started right there. And then on the glove box, not sure if you guys can see it, but see the wood has started to detach from the aluminum backing plate. So we want to remove this wood trim piece here and here. Now, to do that, to get this piece off, we need to remove the glove box liner. And to get this piece off, we need to disassemble the back of the glove box. So, make sure there's nothing in here. So, to get the glove box out, there are these little plastic tabs in here. There you go. You just pull out your little peg, and then underneath it, there's a little plastic peg that, little clip. So we're going to take all those out. We can get our glove box liner out. It's all made to be disassembled, guys. These cars are they're made to be worked on. Now up here, we need to remove the glove box light. And that just pries out. And you have a power connection on the back. We're just going to disconnect those. There we go. We'll just set our glove box light aside. Okay, once that's all out, you can then pull this glove box liner out. And we got to get it around the lock mechanism and then pull it up right there. And fish our wires for the light through. And that just comes right out of there. Okay, now, to get this out, right behind here, there's a stud right there. On the other side, there was only one here. On this side, there's one right behind there. So we have to get our 8mm socket. It's blind, you just got to feel it. There we go. I think I got it. All right, there we go. We got that little plastic nut off. Now, same as on the driver's side, we want to pry back the little clips here so we can remove our vent. There we go. Perfect. And then same on the other side, there's that nut right there. And it is 8mm. Let's see. I think I used a 7mm. Actually, it's 7mm. I think you can use 7 or 8. It seems both of them work. But 7mm fits into the hole here better for this side. All right, good. We got that one off. Also, on the back of this stud and this stud on this side, there's a little like vertical washer. It fits behind there right like that on the stud. These usually fall back behind the dash and you got to like fish them out. Mine landed like right here. And we're going to fish the one out right here also. That little metal tab here, I'm just going to put my hand behind there and try to catch it when it falls behind the dash. Oh, I got it. All right, cool. We got this wood piece off. Okay, good. Got it. That is back behind there. It's like a little metal washer. And guys, if you drop those and you lose them behind the dash, they're not critical when you reinstall. I just always try to catch them. All right, next thing we want to do is remove the back of this glove box door so we can remove this wood piece right here. I think the wood is just these screws up here. But whatever, we'll go ahead and get these screws out. And these are just Phillips head. There we go. There you go, you can already see it starting to detach. Okay, now these over here, these are for the latch mechanism. And you just need to loosen these in order to get the wood out. You don't need to completely take your latch apart. So we're just going to loosen these up. All right, that's probably enough. Almost. There it goes. Good. And there we go. We have this wood assembly out. See where it started to delaminate? This is actually not cracked. but it has delaminated. So we'll send this off to Madeira. But when it's underneath there, those screws we took out here are screwed into 2 wood blocks. That's what holds it in there. And here you go. Here's how the latch mechanism works. You can see it runs right across here, and that wood goes right up in here behind it. There's a little channel right there, and there's a tab right there. And this latch presses against the wood right here and presses it into that channel. So by loosening the latch, you can kind of slip it out of that channel and pull it out. Okay, here's the wood we're sending off. You can see how the delamination has started right there on this piece. And of course, we just showed the glove box delamination. And then you can see the delamination that started here on this piece and right over here. And so we're going to send all this off and it will come back flawless. All right, I'm just looking at the rest of these wood pieces. And right here, I do see a crack has started. I mean, guys, I know that's really minor, but if I'm going through the trouble of redoing all this wood up here, I might as well have this just as nice. And then right here, I see a little, there's like a small chip out of the side. Yeah, like a little chip out of the side of the ashtray wood. And then it looks like, yeah, right here, there may be a crack forming. That appears to be actually under the polyester resin. That might have been from the factory. Yeah, because it's not the surface that's cracked. But anyway, if I'm going through all the trouble to send all this off and redo it, I want to have this just as perfect. So I'm going to remove all these pieces here and just send it all off in the same order. And also, if you saw my inspection video, this is actually the wrong radio for this year. The Becker radio for this year had a smaller screen. It was like 2 inches wide, and this one was like 3 or 4 inches wide. So I have another period correct that would have come in the car radio that I've added Bluetooth to, and I'm going to go ahead and install that. So first, let's just go ahead and get this ashtray out, and that's just a couple of screws right there, and then we can go ahead and get this piece out and this piece out. And there's not really a great camera angle for doing this, but first we want to take out our ashtray, and it's just 2 Phillips screws behind here. We'll put those in the ashtray. I guess this would be our ashtray housing. There we go. And then we can slide this ashtray frame out. And we can, it's already unplugged. Must have unplugged it when I was pulling it out, but there's a bulb we want to take out right here. There we go. And we can disassemble this wood. Oh, you know what? Look, it's starting to delaminate right here. So I'm glad I actually spotted that. Well, we're going to send that off anyway. Okay, and then we can pull out our little change holder right here. That comes out right like that. And now this wood piece here, we can actually pull this out. And we just have to disconnect all the switches behind it. The antenna, the window switches, the side mirror switch, and the fader switch. There we go. And we'll actually pop all these switches out before we send the wood off. Now, let's see, the radio, we can actually release 2 little metal prongs underneath here, like little security tabs, and start to pull this out. All right, there we go. And we'll slide this original radio. Well, I'm sorry, this is not original. Appears to be a later year. So we'll slide this one out. Yeah. Looks like he ordered a replacement. It says August 29th, 2007. So they must have sent a replacement radio from whoever he had that done with. All right, let's unplug all this. It's close, but not quite correct. All right, take this radio out. Now, we need to get this panel off. Now to do that, there's 2 screws right underneath here. All right, now once those are out, we can pull this panel down. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Now we're going to pull this off of here, and we can detach all our switches from the back. All right, there we go. And we'll pop out our switches here and send this piece off. Not sure if you can see it in the camera. There is definitely a crack line right there. And I just want all this to be perfect. Okay, all of the wood is out of the car. Let's get this all packed up, sent off, and the next thing we're going to do is start on our passenger side seat. Okay, you saw the other wood trim from the dash. This is just the wood I just removed. And first we want to go ahead and remove our switches. And there's some little tabs on the back you can press in with a screwdriver. And then your switches just come right out. So let me remove all these switches, and then this will be ready to be sent off. Okay, we have all the switches out, all the wood's ready to go back, and this is actually glued to the front of the ashtray. There's a little channel right there that slips up underneath there and is glued on there. So we'll re-glue that once it comes back from Madeira. But let's get all this boxed up, shipped off with the other pieces, and you won't see it refinished and reinstalled until the next video. And now we're going to go start troubleshooting that passenger electric seat motor. Now, if you remember, I bought this car from a shop. The driver's seat works beautiful. They actually removed that and lubricated it, and they actually repaired and replaced one of the cables. That is very smooth. It works beautifully. But it looks like they never checked or didn't address this seat. Watch this here. So you hear that noise? That's because this seat needs to be lubricated. Also, if I try to raise it up, hear that? It's not moving though. That is because the cable has become attached from the motor. See? I'm trying to raise and lower the front now. So we need to do 2 things. We need to lubricate the gears, and we need to reattach some cables from the to the motors, and I'll show you how that works. Okay guys, the first thing I've done, I've raised the back of the seat all the way up, and now we just want to go back with it, and we want to access these 10mm bolts right here, and they just easily come out of here. And there's one also right over here on this side, so let me go ahead and take those out. All right, once we have those out, we're going to move the seat all the way forward, and it's going to sound much better once I lubricate everything. And then we can get access right down here. Now, if we could raise the back up, we could raise it up and easier get access to the 10mm there. But we can't. That's what we're going to repair. So I need to go under there with a short little handheld wrench to get these out. Okay, I'm just in the back seat here, and you can see there's one there and one there. Now, if we could adjust the seat up, we could raise it up, or we could get a socket on there. But in this case, since that part is not working, we're going to get a wrench down in there like that. All right, let me go ahead and get these out. Next thing you want to do is detach your seat belt. Now there's a little cover right here that pulls off. There we go, a little plastic cover. And there's another bolt right there, and this is a 10mm. We need to go ahead and undo that. All right, we have that out, and now it's important you pay attention to how this is connected. First, we want to get our plastic cover off. Okay, I pulled this bolt out, and it's important you pay attention to how it goes back on. So So on the back side, back here on the back side, you have this concave washer with a rubber grommet right there. See how the washer's concave? When you reinstall it, that grommet goes there and it goes in that direction. See? On the back side when you reattach it to the car. Set that there. And on the front side, you just have like a little spacer on the bolt right there. That's what goes through the front side. Okay, so we'll just put those back together like that. All right, step those aside. We take off our trim piece here, and there we go. Now this is detached and can come out with the seat. Now the next thing we want to do before we pull the seat out, we want to disconnect the power in the front, and we also want to slide the seat back so it's even with these tracks here. That makes it, you know, the smallest size so you can get it out of the passenger side door. All right, so we'll go ahead and move the seat back. There we go. We have our track level on the, you know, the front side and back side to give it the smallest width to easily get it out of the door. Now, what we want to do next is tilt this seat backwards. All right, there we go. I've got it tilted backwards, and we want to undo. There's our power plug right there. All right, there's not really a great camera angle to show you. Hopefully you guys can see this, but I'm going to tilt the seat sideways and then pull it out in an L shape. There we go. See how it's an L shape? And then I can just rotate it right around and it comes right out of the car. Now notice I have a blanket down here. We're going to turn the seat over and rest it right there on the headrest and the bottom. All right, that's perfect. That way we won't damage any of the leather. All right, guys, here's what we're working with. We have our motors here, and then these motors have cables that run across, and here's your gearboxes over here, and then here is your power plug. So we have to determine which motor is controlling the backwards tilt. Here, let's see. What it was not doing is tilting up or tilting up. It was going forward and backward, and the backrest was moving, but we lost our seat tilt. So we're going to determine which motor that is and then start work on it. I just have a 12-volt jump box here. These are like the, you know, the lithium-ion car jump boxes, but they provide 12 volts. They're great for troubleshooting. Now to do that, you want to take your positive and negative, just connect it to the pins. There it is, right there. It's that one. That one is spinning but not moving anything. See if we move to the next one. All right, there we go. It's these two cables right here that are the problem. Let's go ahead and check this cable. All right, that's what we need to lubricate. And then this cable right here, that is our tilt. All right, so it's the two sets of pins on the right, and it's these cables right here. All right, guys, so you can see there's a piece of carpet that covers underneath here just for aesthetics. And first thing I want to do is go ahead and remove this carpet so we don't mess that up and so it doesn't get in the way. And it's just held on here with a couple of little spring-loaded clips right there. We'll set this aside. Okay, guys, if you remember at the very beginning of the video, this cable and this cable, we could hear them spinning, but they weren't turning the gears. I'll demonstrate that one more time. We're just going to do this middle one right here. It's spinning, but it's not engaging the gear right here. Now, let me show you. I have some replacement cables here in case. I don't think it's broken. I think it just slipped out of the gear. This is what the cable looks like. And all it is a sheath. And then it has a square. See how this is a square cable? See how it's not round, it's square. And that square tip plugs in to the square female hole on the gear and turns it. And if this pops loose or pops out of that little slot, it will spin and not turn the gear. Now, in case it was broken, I have a replacement, but I can feel it spinning in here. So we're going to pull it out of here, and then we'll spin it again and make sure we see the tip spin. So if it's not broken, we just need to plug it back into the gear because it's popped loose. Okay, so to get access to this area, we need to remove this little plastic cover here. And it's just a 7mm bolt that comes out of here. Okay, take off our cover. We'll set that aside. And right here, this is the housing that goes over the gear mechanism. There's a worm gear that runs right across here. And we're going to go ahead, take out these 2 screws on the housing. Okay, now this faceplate right here will come off. And I just kind of jiggle it right off of there. It comes right off. There's a splined gear down in here. So there, we took it off. Now, when you put it back on, you want to make sure, see this tab right here? That little tab has to be right there over your cable. That's how it goes back on. Okay, now that that's off, we can take off this little plate here. There we go. This little plate just slides right off. Get your fingernail behind it a little bit. Okay. And this is going to be our worm gear. Okay, and I can see there is a ton of grease in there. And that grease is very goopy. That grease is excellent condition. Now, let me show you how this works. This was in here like this. We have our gear here, and you have your worm gear right here. That worm gear is where our cable plugs in. It goes in like that, and the cable plugs in right here and turns that worm gear. Now you want to be careful too, because right on the very tip, there's a little plug on the end. That's just a little steel, a round steel insert. You don't want that to fall out. That gives it a tight fit when it's in there. So make sure you leave that little steel piece there. Oh, sure enough, I see it, guys. The cable has slipped out of the slot. To get in close, right there. See the tip of our cable? How it's like laying over there to the side? It has pulled out of the slot. All right, I've got our cable pulled back through. You can see it right there. Watch what happens when I connect the power. There we go. See it spinning now? See, that cable had slipped loose and fallen back down in the sheath. So our cable is excellent. Let's put our worm gear back on there and make sure our cable slips in correctly. Here's a better view. You can see I just pulled the cable out of the little slot it's in. Watch it right there. See, it turns absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that cable. It just popped out. So, all right, I'm going to put it back into. Now, I have to hold the cable while I do this so I don't push it back out of the slot. Now, the tricky part, you got to get the cable to go back in the slot right here. So, I'm going to fiddle around with this. I'll be right back. Okay, we have our cable back in and our plate back on. Now remember this tab right here? That's what actually holds that cable in there from slipping out. All right, got a plate over there, and I'm kind of zoomed out because I want you to watch the seat and see if it moves now. So we need to go the other direction because it's already fully retracted. This is going to be the tilt and lower. So watch right here. See, we're now the back of the seat is tilting up, and now it's tilting down. We have that cable reattached in there. So now we are good to go. All right, now we need to fix this other one, which actually goes into this plate over here. So we're going to do the same thing. First, I'll check, see if the cable's broken. If it's not broken, we're just going to reattach it. Okay guys, this one disassembles the same way, and you have the same worm gear design. And again, the cable just popped out here, so I can test it. See, here's the cable right here. See, it spins absolutely fine. It just popped out of the slot. And I've seen this a couple of times on 300 SDs. All right, we have this cable now reattached. And let's watch to make sure the seat moves. There we go. And now we'll connect it the other way. And it should lower back down. This is the front of the seat, raise and lower. Beautiful. All right. Now, we got to put our cover plate back on here. For this one, this cover plate. This goes right over here like this. And we put our screws back in there. Now, the next thing I want to do is just lubricate our tracks. The gears were already very lubricated. I didn't need to do anything there. But we're just going to lubricate our main tracks before we put it back in the car. Okay, so you can see we have some teeth right here. I'm going to put a glob of grease onto there and onto our gear right here. And you can see there's some teeth right down there. I'll grease that up good. This side's a little easier to access. I'll put a bunch of grease on there and then we'll put her back in the car. All right, guys, I like to use extreme pressure moly graphite grease. And we just got a glob of it here. And we're gonna glob those gears up really good. I'll just brush it down into there. And that'll last a very long time. It'll take me a couple times running it back and forth before it'll quiet down after applying this grease. All right, there we go. That's greased up really well. All right, I took a second to vacuum and clean under the seat before I reinstall it. Now, Scott will detail the floor mats and the rear, but got any kind of trash or anything that was under the seat out of there before we put our seat back in. All right, I have the seat loosely installed. I'll clean my greasy hand marks off of it. But I have it installed. I don't have the bolts tightened down. We just want to test real quick. So the thing it was doing before, we got forward, and we're going to let that grease work in there. Backward, and we raise the back. Beautiful. Now, what we fixed is the tilt in the rear and the tilt in the front. So let's try the rear. Beautiful. Up, down, up. And now let's try the tilt in the front. Down, up. Mission accomplished. We have a working power front passenger seat. And almost forgot, here's the decorative carpet that goes over under the front seat. So I'll go ahead, reinstall this in here. Okay, there we go. We got that decorative carpet reinstalled back under there. Almost left that out. Basically, it covers all the seat cables and motor wires. Just makes it look nice under there. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Shipped off the wood trim to Madeira Concepts a little while ago. We got that passenger seat fixed. I just need to tighten all the bolts back down and reconnect that seatbelt strap, and we're done with that. So hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time. Take care.